Hello, in this quick video lab I'm going to show you how to install Neces, the vulnerability scanner for Linux. The Linux distribution we're using right now is the Fedora 15 provided to the BSU ITM 455 Linux lab. But before we get started on the installation of Neces, we need a couple of things. The first thing you need is going to be internet access. It makes it a lot easier. Neces with the newest versions now requires or prefers internet access so that you can register the product with them and then also download the latest plugins. So so once you have internet, the next thing you require, of course, is the installation package. To get the Neces installation package, just go to Tenable.com and then under Products, click on Neces Scanner. And when that comes up, actually nothing, you just got to scroll down a little bit, click on the download button, and you're going to get a download agreement. Go ahead and read through the agreement, and if you agree, click agree. And then it'll take you to an operating or the download page, which allows you to select the package based on your operating system. They have Microsoft, Mac, and Linux. For Linux, right now we are running Fedora Core 15, but unfortunately they don't have a package for 15. But I know for a fact that it works just as well if we use the Fedora Core 14 package. So go ahead and click on that, and it'll bring you to the download screen. Go ahead and click on Save and then OK. I'm going to cancel here since I've already downloaded these files, but all of these files will be going to your downloads page. Okay, the next thing you're going to need is you're going to have to obtain an activation code from Neces. This is required for the latest version, so to do that, just go to www.neces.org/register. And once you do that, it's going to take you back to this page here, and it's going to ask you what type of activation code do you want, a personal or a professional version or a home version. The professional version has a paid subscription. It allows you to scan more hosts and provides some additional benefits in the way you can download files, etc. But for now, we're going to go ahead and click on the Home Edition or the Home Feed subscription. And then again, you have another agreement. Go ahead and read through that, and if you agree, click Agree. Then at that point, it's going to bring you into this form here. Just fill in your first name, last name, and email, and click Register. When you do that, Tenable will then send you an email at the email that you provided, giving you an actual registration code that you can use while you're installing the application, and we'll see that in a little bit here. If you want more information on Tenable and Neces, you can go to the documentation page here, and that'll tell you more information about different installation processes you can use for different operating systems, the user's guide, and then more information if you use the professional edition. Okay, one last thing we're going to need before we can actually run Neces is Adobe Flash. From the newest version of Neces 4 and on, they no longer have a client edition that has its own program. The way it runs now, the client edition, is it runs off of a browser, and it needs Flash to be run off of the browser. So we need to download the Linux version, so just go to get.adobe.com/Flash player. Once you get to this page, click on the drop down, select the RPM for other Linux, and then again that will ask you if you want to save it. Just go ahead and say save, and they'll save it to your downloads page. Again, I already have that file, so we're ready to go. Okay, before we get started, just a couple of things. Open up this document here. We are going to create a Neces user account later on, so I wanted to provide that information to you. What I'm going to use in the lab, and you can use something different if you want, but what I recommend is just to create a Neces user called admin, and with the password Go Broncos, our standard password. The SU or admin password for this virtual machine is this password here. So that's a $UPP0RT capital L capital M. So that's the password we're going to use when installing the RPM packages. And then this is part of the file that I got from Tenable or Neces as to my registration code. Quick note on the registration code. If you install Neces and then later decide to remove it or to install it in a new system, you're going to have to re-register your account or your email again to receive a new registration code. Once you register one of the codes, you can't use it again. However, you can register probably as many times as you want. I think this is my 6th time that I registered, and it still gave me the code without any problems. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install the Flash player. It just makes things a lot easier if the Flash player is already installed. So if you go into Applications, System Tools, Terminal, it'll bring you to a command line interface or terminal, and it'll provide you a shell. If I do a PWD, present working directory, it'll tell me where I'm at. Basically, I'm in the home folder for the ITM 455 account. If I do an ls, these are the folders available to me at the moment. I know all the files were downloaded to the downloads folder, so I'll go ahead and do a change directory to that folder or directory, and then we'll do a list, and here they are. Here's the Flash plugin and the Neces package. So of course, if you want to install something, you need admin privileges, so we'll do a switch user, and we'll type in that password I gave you earlier, which is this one right here. And now we know we are in admin mode because we have the hash there. Okay, so now if we do an ls again, I want to make sure it's still there. So we're going to use the RPM command. And if you want to look up any of the commands, you can always do a man for manual RPM or any command, and that'll give you the manual for that command. This one's giving me the one for RPM. And you can scroll down by using the scroll bar, and then once you're ready to exit, just type the Q letter, and that'll bring you back. So I want to use the RPM, and I want to use the switches of I, V, and H. The I is for install, the V is for verbose, it just gives you more information, and the H is for hash. Basically, a lot of the applications, when you install them in Linux, they may or may not give you a status. The hash will actually give you that status by putting hashes or pound signs across as it's being installed. So we'll do that, and then what we want to do is install the Flash one, but I don't want to type in the entire name here. It's a very long name. So another trick or shortcut in Linux is you can start typing in the name of the file, and as long as it's unique, you can hit the tab key and it will automatically complete that file name or directory for you. And then hit enter. What it'll do is it'll go ahead and just extract and then install the Flash plugin, and that's it. That's all we needed to do. Another note, because we did install Flash, we want to probably go in here and close the Firefox browser so that those changes actually occur the next time we open that browser. Okay, so now what we want to do is go back and install the Nessus client. So again, we'll use the same command, RPM, same switch, and now we use Nessus. Capital N, tab, there it is, and then we'll hit the enter key. And what's going to happen now is it's actually going to start looking at the package and then start extracting it and putting in the plugins. And there you are. That's very quick. Now the instructions tell you to go ahead and run Neces and add a user by doing this command. But what I recommend is we already registered, so what we're going to do next is we're actually going to go ahead and activate or register the actual product. And when you received your email, you should have gotten a command with a registration key that looks something like this. So all we're going to do is highlight that key. Oops. Make sure I didn't lose anything there. Highlight that key there for this command. And then I'm just going to go ahead and paste it into the terminal and hit enter. Now what's going to happen here is it's actually going to go out to Tenables or Nessus websites, and it's going to activate one, your code, here it is, and two, it's going to start fetching new plugins. Now this is where your internet connectivity is crucial, because you definitely want the latest plugins from Nessus. That way you have the latest files to do the vulnerability scans with. This is going to take probably a couple of minutes. As you see, there is no status bar like I said earlier. Unfortunately, they did not provide one, but it is working in the background. It takes about 4 to 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do here is just pause the video and then come back when this process is complete. Okay, we're back. So the plugins were updated and everything looks good. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and start the daemon service for Neces. When you installed Neces, you actually installed two different things. You installed one, the client, where users can get in and look at reports and run scans, and two, the daemon, or the service for Neces. Typically in enterprise systems, you want to have two separate systems, one that runs the service and one that runs the client, so you can have multiple people logging into that daemon or that service. But here we have all in one machine, so what we're going to do is install or run the nesesd command to get that daemon running. Now, when you're working with Neces, you have to provide the full path of the command. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to show you where Neces installed all the files. So if we do an ls and we do go to the root and then the opt file and then Neces, that's where it installed basically. Here's where all the files for Neces are. Now to look at all the commands, you can actually do a /sbin, and that's where all the commands for Neces are installed, or the majority of them, the ones you're going to be using most of the time. Another tip, if you want to don't want to retype some of the commands you already used but that were useful, you can use the up arrow, and that will give you the history or the commands that you typed in the past, and that way you can go ahead and run the same commands again, or in this case I just want to add to it, and what we're going to do is type in nesesd and then execute this daemon. Now what's going to happen here, or should happen, let me try one more time, is this should have executed that command. Let me see. Oh, I apologize, I'm doing ls. Again, command line, you got to pay attention. There we go. That's the command we want to run, so we hit enter. Now what's going to happen is Neces is going to process all the plugins that were downloaded a couple minutes ago. This is going to take quite a long time, well, about 10-15 minutes, but this one does provide you a status bar. You can see the hashes down here. The hashes are going to come across, and once they're all the way across, you're going to come back to a prompt, and I'll tell you a little bit later what that prompt means. In the meantime, I'm going to tell you what I did in the background. While Neces was actually updating the plugins, I went back to a website, and I wanted to verify that Flash was installed correctly, because otherwise that can be a problem. So if you go into this website here, and I'll refresh, hopefully you should see this little Flash sign come up. And if it says it's successfully installed, then you're pretty much to go on the browser part of it. So that would be good. We'll take a look at that in a little bit and see how we open up the Neces home page. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video again until this process is complete, and then we'll come back and finalize our Neces installation and run some scans. Okay, so the Neces daemon has finished processing all the plugins. You see this is the output again we get, all plugins loaded, and then this is all you get right here. At this time I want you to leave this window open because we actually ran the nesesd command on this terminal. So if we close the terminal, we're pretty much closing the nesesd service, and we want to leave it up so we can use Neces. One way to show, if it comes up quickly, is to show that the nesesd daemon is running, is you can actually use the top command. The top command gives you all of the processes. Let's see if it comes up. Waiting for a terminal, there we go. And then we'll just execute the top command. And if Neces is on top, and there it is, that means it's running. So, and it can be on top or the bottom depending on how much processing or CPU it's using. As you can see, it fluctuates, and this is a live show. So basically, if you're a Windows person, this is the same thing you would see under processes for a task manager. That's the top command. To exit, hit the Q button and just type in exit. Okay, so pretty much we've installed the Neces package, we installed Flash, and we ran the service. Now the only thing that we have left to do is to actually create a user. So I'm going to come back and open another terminal while we're leaving this terminal up, and we're going to run the add user command. And again, you have to type in the full path and then add a user. That'll bring us back to, again, you gotta have the right privileges, so we'll type those in. Perfect. And then we have to type it in. Unfortunately, because now we're in a different user or session, we can't use history. And we'll hit enter a login. Again, we want to use admin, and then the password, go ahead and use your Go Broncos password. And be careful to type in and right here, because it doesn't give you any response or indication of what password you're typing in. The next question it's going to ask you is, do you want to run this as an admin user? Typically you would say no if you already have another admin, if this is just a typical user account to view the reports. But since we're both running the daemon and the client on the same machine, we'll say yes. Then it's going to ask you for rules. The rules it wants to ask you here is for either deny or allow. It's kind of like a router rule. You know, do you want to deny a certain IP address from not being scanned, or do you want to allow certain address to come in and be scanned? So here's where I actually have two questions that are going to be part of the lab. One is what's the typical or what's the best standards when setting up a router? Do you just leave it and say default, which would basically be allow all, or do you say deny all? And then, given your answer for that question, does that argument still fit for the Neces scanner? You know, if you used one set of rules for your router, would that same set of rules be used for Neces? And if yes or no, why and why not? Okay, so right now I'm not going to type any rules. I'm just going to leave it blank. And then it's going to ask us again, are you sure you want to give him admin privileges? Again, security in mind. We'll say yes. And then we've added the user. So now we have a user, and we're ready to run Neces. So if you go into your browser, and you can actually go back to your website, and it tells you where to go in your browser. You can go into this HTTPS localhost 8834. You have to have the HTTPS because it is a secure service, and you have to have the certain port right here. What you'll get the first time is this connection is untrusted. The reason you get that is Neces developed its own self-signed certificate, and of course certificate authority has not registered it or validated it, but we know it's from Neces, so we're going to go ahead and say I understand the risks and say add exception. Once you get to the screen, add security exception, you'll say confirm security exception, and then it should take you directly into the Neces home page. Here, type in your username and your password, and you're logged in. So this is the new Neces after version 4, the new home screen for Neces. Here you can do browsing, and you can do comparing and uploads and downloads. These are all for different reports. You can compare reports. So if you have a baseline report that you created of a system, and then 2 months later you create another report, this is how you can compare those two reports. For now, what we're going to do is actually create a scan. We're going to say add a scan. We just call it a test scan for now. We want it to run now, and then the policy is really telling you what set of vulnerabilities should I be looking for. You can do an external scan, DSS audit scan, an internal network scan, or web app test scan. It just gives you different vulnerabilities to look for. Right now we're just going to do an internal network scan because we're not really going to test anywhere. The scan targets, you can use either the IP address for this machine, the loopback address, or all I typically do is just type in localhost, and that'll give it to you. Target files, if you want to browse and actually you have a target file that you want to put in there, you can do that as well. For now, all we're going to do is just do launch scan. So right now we're scanning the local host. Depending on the size of the range of IP addresses or the number of hosts you scan will determine how long the scan actually takes. Right now we're just doing the local host, so hopefully it won't take that long. Wait a couple seconds. Okay, for now I'm going to go ahead and just click stop, and we can see some of the results at that point. So once you click stop, it's going to build a report, and we'll go into reports, and it's going to give you the name of the scan. Double click. Then it's going to give you the local host or the IP address. If you had 10 IP addresses, it would give you all 10 IP addresses here. And then what you can do to dive into the report is just click on the IP or the host name. And here you are. Here's the name of, or here's the vulnerabilities that it found. It's a low, medium, and high. And as you can see through this system right now, it only found one medium. And again, you can go ahead and just keep going down, and it'll give you information about that vulnerability. Okay, so I'm going to try one more scan and see if this works. What I'm going to try to do is scan my host machine, not the VM, but the one that's running underneath the VM. So I'm going to go back to scan, say new scan, type in again test scan 2, say run now. I'm going to do again internal network because they're basically in the same network, and then I'll do a scan against it, and we'll see if this works. I was able to successfully ping to the machine, so hopefully this will at least launch the scan. Now the scan or the target machine I'm running it against at this point is a Windows machine. You probably saw the other scan that it told you it was a Fedora machine, so it knows what operating system you're launching against for the most part. Here we go. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and go into reports, test scan 2, and then here's where it's running. Here's the progress. So even then, even if you're still running a scan, you can come in and see what percentage you're complete. If you have a lot of machines, it's going to take a while. If you have one machine, it just depends on how many services are running, and then also if you have patches that are missing and how up to date you are with those. So we'll go back to scans, and I'm just going to go ahead and say highlight the scan and say stop for now. We just want to look at some of the results. Go back to scan, to reports, double click on the report, double click on our host, there it is, 192.168.0.12, and it says that it found 17, 0 high, 0 medium, and 12 low, which is great, and 5 open ports. So let's take a look at that. One too far, I believe. There we go. So here we are. Here's the lows, 1 or 4 for the port 445, and then these are all lows, and then I don't see any mediums, so that's great. They're all lows. So again, if you want to go into one of these, like this one says, TCP port 445, it's giving us some information there, and it's the SMB detection, and it's telling us it's a low severity. We can go in there and then do some browsing about what it is. Some of the information given to you from the scans actually provide you links to websites where you can find more information. Let me see if I can find one here for you. Okay, this one did not give us any information. Let me go back to the other scan. I believe that one, or the other report, I believe that one gave us more information. We'll go to the medium for now, TCP 0, Fedora 15, and here's your CVSS number. You can actually do a search against that CVSS base score and come up with information. And here's your CVE number. So this CVE number you can actually use search online as it is, and it'll give you more information about this vulnerability, and also information about where or what type of fixes are there, or controls you can put against that vulnerability. So let's go ahead and go back to reports, and I'll see if I can do a compare. Nope, there's no baseline, so we can't do a compare. Anyways, as you can see, this is pretty much the Nessus scanner. You can add policies if you want at that point, if you want to modify your policies, if you know that you're testing against certain criteria, or you know you have certain ports that are going to be open anyways, so you want to exclude those, you can do that as well. And then here's your users. If you want to go ahead and add users this way, you can do it as well. So you can do either the command prompt or now use the GUI interface. A lot of people like the GUI interface. So that completes our tutorial for Nessus scans. Thank you for joining me.